why is it that the economy declined by 5% between 2007 and 2012? And why the IMF and the World Bank locked us out of the international capital markets and made Peter Phillips and Portia for walk with them resignation every day? And Portia forgot to Christine Lagarde and beg her to help Jamaica.
Woman to woman.
Woman to woman. Prime Minister need to explain that and stop lie and talk foolishness.
How you became a millionaire during that time?
Well,
of utter destruction and so on. And the similarities now are that roads are in a deplorable state, lack of investment, etc., etc. But you tell me that now we are doing much better. I need a little explanation.
Well, only Prime Minister can explain that. So it's either he never understood what was happening in the 1990s because he was too young, or he's just plain lying. So, for example, you know what the Prime Minister needs to explain? Why is it that despite the terrible 90s and FinSA, Jamaica's debt to GDP fell to 115% in 2007 when he was a minister in government?
Right.
Prime Minister needs to explain to the country why is it that in 2007 that was the last time the economy grew by 3%. Despite FinSA, and we never got any external assistance in relation to FinSA. Prime Minister needs to explain why in 2007 we had paid off the IMF. We paid off the IMF in 1995 and we never went back to the IMF until 2008 when he was in government, and that government was telling the people of Jamaica that the Great Recession would have helped Jamaica and we never need to go to the IMF. The Prime Minister needs to explain that. Prime Minister needs to explain why inflation was 5% in 2007 and it is now 5.7%. Prime Minister needs to explain why poverty was 9% in 2007 and it is now 20%.
So is that why they skip over that period?
Precisely. Yeah.
Okay.
So here's what the Prime Minister needs to do now. He also needs to explain to the country why they failed to go to the IMF on time when Mr. Golden carried on meeting with all of those people. Why is it that the debt to GDP ratio moved from 115 to 147 in
Okay, so, all right, I get the idea of investing in paper. We'd like to see more investment in
sectors of the economy.
Yes. But for a government that boasts about selling bonds abroad and catastrophe bonds and so much, which I'm assuming is an investment in government.
Government paper. Yeah, man. So the Prime Minister is giving double speak because the Prime Minister needs to explain to the students while he was talking yesterday. The Bank of Jamaica was floating 37 billion in a fixed rate CD in order to ease the pressure on the same thing that we were doing in the 1990s. What happened is that there was 313 bids for $42.7 billion. The total amount that BOJ was offering was 37 billion. There was 270 successful bids for 37 billion. The average yield was 6.84%. So while the Prime Minister is talking about that, they are doing the same thing.
So
now.
He's saying that that is not real
investment
and entrepreneur, but you're doing the same
thing. So the Prime Minister is being dishonest because what was happening in the 90s, they were doing that to mop up.
No, man, it can't be being dishonest.
It's dishonest.
It must be a different
The administration was doing that in the 1990s to mop up liquidity to ease the pressure on the dollar.
Which is a standard
thing, which is what his government is doing now. They floated 90 million from the reserves last week, which was 15 billion Jamaican dollars. It wasn't successful. And then they put out a 7% per annum CD yesterday for 37 billion. So while he's doing the same thing.
What is a CD again?
A certificate of deposit, which is a government instrument, government paper. It's a paper. So the government give a paper and
he's saying
take your money.
That is not real investment.
But they are doing the same thing.